So today is my birthday, the 22nd of Sivan. Where I am right now, it's still daytime in America, at least in New York where I am. And it's my 54th birthday, 3 times Chai, which was actually the number that I used for my old basketball jersey on my high school basketball team. You couldn't do 18, you couldn't do 36, you couldn't do 72 on a basketball jersey back then. So I picked 54, and it was always a great number for me, 3 times Chai. And as many of you know, kind of on my birthday every few years, I like to give a birthday bracha dvar Torah. And so it's natural that on a milestone event such as your birthday, and even more so on one's 54th birthday, that you take stock. You take stock of your life. So let's see if there's something we can all learn together about the lives we lead, and about what we can do to make them more meaningful and happier. So there's actually a very powerful idea I read in Rav Galinsky's Sefer recently that I'd like to use and expand on and tweak a little bit for us to kind of like delve into. So there's a Gemara at the end of Masechet Moed Katan, right? Moed Katan, Daf Kufchet Amud Aleph, and it's talking about the angel of death is having a hard time. Now, first, let's take a step back and understand that in the Jewish tradition, we don't have this idea from kind of like the Christian, it's a Christian, even pagan idea of, let's say, a good angel has wings and a halo and kind of like flies around doing good deeds on its own. An angel is a pure spiritual force. It doesn't have what we call a Yetzer HaTov. It doesn't have a good inclination to do wonderful things. And it doesn't have a Yetzer Hara. Right? The evil inclination to be selfish, to be jealous. It doesn't have either of those. It's kind of, in a certain way, kind of like a spiritual robot that does Hashem's bidding. And Hashem sends it on missions that sometimes are pretty wonderful and sometimes pretty, the way we look at it, pretty sad. Right? So, for instance, the angel that stays Abraham's hand from slaughtering Yitzchak in the Akedah of Yitzchak doesn't give high fives to everyone in Shemayim. Oh, great, I was able to save Yitzchak's life. He didn't feel that way because he doesn't have the good inclination or anything else. And so, just like we don't believe that angels have, these wings and halos, we also don't believe in the idea of the devil. Right, the devil with the red woolen scratchy underwear and the pitchfork and the and the horns. This is not a Jewish concept, and certainly not also with what we call in Hebrew the Malach HaMavet, right, the angel of death, who's not this grim reaper with the kind of like the woolen hoodie that with the robe and the sit. This is not it. The Malach HaMavet, quite simply, is an angel that's tasked to take a neshama, to take a soul from this world to the next world. Right? It doesn't get joy in it, doesn't get a grim satisfaction. That's what it is. So the Gemara is talking about how the Malach HaMavet had a tafkid, had a task, and it was having a hard time specifically with Rabbi Chia. Why? Why with Rabbi Chia? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Chia lo have matzeh lemikarvele. Rabbi Chia, the angel of death, would not be able to come near Rabbi Chia. He couldn't be able to take his soul because Rabbi Chia was such a big tzaddik. So what does he do? Yom achad idmi le ka'anya. One day the angel of death appeared to him like a poor person. Ata tarif abava. He came, he knocked on the door of Rabbi Chia's house. Amar le, and he says to him, Apik le rifta, please will you give me some bread? I'm hungry. Apik le, Rabbi Chia, of course, Rabbi Chia is a huge tzaddik. He brings out bread, he brings out food to him. And he says to him, Amar le, the angel of death, the Malach HaMavet says to Rabbi Chia, V'lav kamarachim ma'anya? You have such mercy on this poor person. Ahu gavra amai lo kamarachimar. How come you don't have mercy upon me? I'm the angel of death. And he reveals himself. It says Galilei. He reveals himself. Achvale shota dunuri. He shows that he had a fiery rod to prove to himself that he was the angel of death. And he says, this is your time. Rabbi Chia, this is your time. Because of your righteousness, I'm not able to penetrate, but this is your time. Your soul belongs now in the world to come. And was the Gemara finished? At this point, Am Silei Nafshe. And Rabbi Chia was Makabel, and Rabbi Chia allowed himself to go into the next world. Right? It's a very strange kind of like, but it shows us the righteousness of Rabbi Chia and the power of righteousness that death itself could not, when you involve yourself in such righteousness, would not be able to penetrate. But what's the obvious question here? The obvious question here is what? Rabbi Chia didn't eat or sleep, right? He didn't do other mundane tasks. He couldn't be involved in such tzidkut mamish 24/7. Right? So how could the Balach HaMavet not been able to take his soul? Rabbi Chia had to sleep. But the Gemara says that the angel couldn't. So what's the answer? So maybe the answer comes from the idea of Erev Yom Kippur. Right? And so listen to this. This is, as I said, I read this a lot of this in the Sefer of Rabbi Galinsky. It was a powerful idea. So it says Erev Yom Kippur. Why Erev Yom Kippur? So let's go into the Gemara again. There's a Gemara on Pei Aleph Amud Bet, right? 81b Masechet Yoma, where it talks about the mitzvot of Yom Kippur, and it says Ve'initim et nafshotechem b'tisha. On the 9th day of the month, you afflict your soul, meaning you start fasting. But the Gemara says V'chi b'tisha mitanin. What are you talking about? We don't fast on the 9th. V'halo be'asor mitanin. We fast on the 10th. Right? Yom Kippur is on the 10th of Tishrei, not the 9th. So why does the verse in the Torah say that we start afflicting ourselves on the 9th? Ela l'mar lacha, the Gemara answers rather to teach us kol ha'ochel v'shota b'tshi, that there's a mitzvah, as we know, on the 9th day of Tishrei, the day before Yom Kippur, Erev Yom Kippur, there's a mitzvah to eat and to drink. And so the Gemara says that anyone who eats and drinks on the 9th day of the month, ma'aleh alav katuv, that the pasuk compares them ki'ilu hitanat shiva asiri. The pasuk gives them credit as though this person had fasted on both the 9th and the 10th of the month. Right? The Gemara doesn't just say that it's a mitzvah to eat on Erev Yom Kippur. Right? It puts down the very physical acts of eating and drinking as to be equal of fasting on Yom Kippur. But even more so, it comes out and says it's so holy to eat and to drink on Erev Yom Kippur, it's like you fasted on Erev Yom Kippur instead of eating, and you fasted on the 9th and the 10th. And so now we have our answer. If you're doing something mundane, but it's for the right reason, what's the right reason? To serve Hashem, right? So if you're doing something mundane, like eating or sleeping or exercising or something else, then that can be an act of Avodat Hashem. Now, how Netflix or the like fits into this, well, to be honest, frankly, it doesn't, right? It doesn't, I'll be honest. It doesn't fit into that idea. But hopefully when you engage in acts like that, it's hopefully a small part of our day, and that's okay, right? But don't think that, oh, I'm watching Netflix, I'm playing video games, this is how it, that's not. But if we engage in other acts and we say, I'm exercising, I want to keep healthy, I want to get a good night's sleep so I can be sharp tomorrow morning because I want to, help Hashem. So I want to do Torah, mitzvot, I want to live that kind of life. That in of itself, the eating, the sleeping, and we know by making a bracha, right? We also take the act of eating into making something that is mundane as eating into something holy. Okay, and that's what the Gemara is trying to say. That Rabbi Chia, that everything that he did, the eating, the sleeping, and a lot of other mundane acts that he did, mamish, was in order to be an Oved Hashem, to be a servant of Hashem, to work for Hashem, to involve himself in the life of Torah mitzvot. And there we are. That is the secret to a happy life. Right? That's the secret to a happy life. A happy life comes from a meaningful life, which is unfortunately, in my opinion, why so many people are unhappy, right? I want to be clear. I feel strongly this is a very important idea here. It's a fundamental principle of life, in my opinion, right? That people vying for the happy life will not find it, right? If you are searching for a happy life, that's your goal. I want to have a happy life and I'm looking for a happy life. I'm chasing happiness, you will not find it, right? Because chasing happiness can never be found on its own. Right? Chasing meaning, and to take a lesson from the great Viktor Frankl, to make yourself a meaningful life, right, is the way to ultimately find a happy life. A meaningful life will lead you to be happy. Think about it. Think about the people who you know who live a life of meaning, and think about how happy they probably are. Right? So meaningful acts in the service of Hashem, a life of Torah and mitzvot. This is the most basic recipe for a meaningful and happy life. Right? Meaningful acts in the service of Hashem, a life of Torah and mitzvot, that what you do, and even the time that you eat, that you sleep, that you exercise, even that you go to work in order to make a parnasa, that you can live a life here. These can all be acts of service to Hashem, fulfilling your life of Torah of mitzvot, and this could mamish be, as I said, the basic recipe for a meaningful and happy life. One more idea to bring this all home. We had closing circle last year, the end of Oraita year 18. And one of my boys was saying, he quoted a great line from Ralph Waldo Emerson, right? Life is a journey, not a destination. And he was cholik on it. He disputed it a little bit, right? He has that Gemara learning, the Gemara cup that he got from learning in a year in yeshiva. And he said he disagrees with it, right? Even though it's a powerful idea, right? Life is a journey, not a destination, which is godless. But he said he thinks that life is about the people you meet on the journey, which is a pretty amazing idea also. Now, not to play Rashi, but to be honest, I think that's what Emerson probably meant as well. Or at least that's what I take from his idea, right? To surround yourself as you go through this meaningful journey with meaningful people. And I'm blessed, right? As I said, it's important to take stock in your birthday. I'm blessed to have so many special people in my life. So many of you are watching this video right now. All of you who have brought such meaning into my life and such purpose in my life. And because of that, you've brought so much happiness into my life. So I'd like to be able to give on my birthday as an idea, as an inyan of being able to give a bracha. So my birthday bracha to all of you this year is keep growing in your avodat Hashem, in your service to Hashem. Because through it, you'll find that meaning. And you will find such people in your life. And therefore you will find such happiness in your life. So Mazel Tov, happy birthday to me, and Mazel Tov to all of us. And I wish you all happy and meaningful, and because of that, joyous and purposeful life. Thank you so much.